Happy early Tandy, everybody. Let's turn the lights on. Yeah, I'm shooting all my Tandy videos early this year because there's too much stuff going on. I'm going to be showing off systems I sold later in December. The Tandy might be oddly absent during December too. I'm going to be using mainly one computer for a lot of those videos too. That's just because I'm working to move this year, if I haven't already, and we're trying, and it's made filming stuff a little bit challenging. So anyway, just in case anyone new tunes in, I decided I'd do an intro for the first Tandy video of 2023 by introducing you to my 1985 Tandy 1000A. Model 25 1000A. For those of you that don't know, the Tandy 1000 series was a series of computers built by Radio Shack, or for Radio Shack by Tandy Corp., which used to be a leather company but then became a computer company. Tandy made the 1000 series to be sort of this weird three-way bridge of a Tandy Coco, a IBM PC, and an IBM PC Junior. See, what looks here, it looks like a fairly standard IBM PC. I mean, you've got your regular desktop chassis here, your regular monochrome CGA, EGA, TTL monitor, but you also have ports like a Tandy Coco down here on it, and you have a light pen port in back. So, you know, I bought this computer from Value Village in Everett, Washington for about $10 back in 2007, and it's one of my more prized items in my collection because it's these have become very popular. A lot of people cite young Sheldon for the reason, but they're just cool. In my humble opinion, if you want a MS-DOS PC that's an 8088 or an NEC V20 as mine is now, you probably want to get a Tandy 1000. They're going to be expensive. You're going to be paying over $100 for most of them, but they're actually not a bad little computer, and they're actually pretty impressive for how old they are. This model, of course, as I mentioned before, is the Tandy 1000A. This is a 4.77 megahertz machine, upgradable to 256 kilobytes of RAM on the motherboard, up to 640K with a memory expansion card, which is what I have on this computer. It came standard with two 360K double-sided, double-density TAC floppy drives, 5 1/4, the actual floppies, as people call them. I even have a few here, so I might even show you those at some point. The top of the chassis is plastic, the inside is steel, like a regular PC. The later ones, like the 1000SX and all that, were aluminum. So basically, it's basically an IBM PC, but there's one little difference between this and an IBM PC as far as the PC-related hardware, and that's that it has the expanded 16-color 320 by 200 video and the Texas Instruments sound chip that was used in a lot of arcade machines in this for 3-voice audio, along with a 4th voice from the regular programmable interrupt timer audio circuit that all PCs had with the 1-channel square wave bleeper on it. But that's about where the standards stop, except with having a standard CGA monitor port. Because this is enhanced CGA, color graphics adapter, like the PC Junior, so there you go. What makes a Tandy 1000 also a Tandy 1000, first off, you have this big Atari-style fire button for the reset button down here. You have a proprietary keyboard jack of its own design that goes with its own proprietary keyboard that has the AT-style layout mashed together. So you have the arrow keys and the individual keypad here. This keyboard is rare and hard to get, though, nowadays, and it can be sometimes really difficult to get certain programs working with a Tandy 1000 because of this keyboard, because it's a little weird and works a little differently. You might also notice you have two Tandy Coco-style joystick ports right up here on the Tandy 1000. And these can be used for a regular analog pot-controlled non-digital joystick, though I have a schematic that I've drawn up for a digital gamepad converter, or even, I was thinking, if I have time and money this year, with all the changes outside of computers and everything going on in my life, I might even design and make my own digital gamepad for this, for things like Zelyard and Thexter and Sylpheed and all that stuff that I like to play on this. Again, as you can see, we have something plugged into port 2. Well, what is this? This is the Tandy Coco Deluxe mouse. Tandy had 2 of these mice that worked with the 1000. There's this one, the deluxe mouse, and then there's the regular mouse, which is black with a single red button up here. These mice do not work like regular mice. They have a giant metal ball inside that only goes left and right and up and down so far. It's basically a joystick in a mouse form factor. That's basically what it is. And when you roll it around too far to the left or to the right, it stops after a certain point and you can't go any further. Something I can't show you on video. And of course, I have it sitting in the classic keyboard tray from the 80s, but just like LGR and his 486, I put some wood grain on this because I too am a fan of wood grain. But this I use with all my computers. The other reason I also shoot the Tandy videos earlier is because I tend to have my Tandy out during the summer. The reason why is the NEC V20 doesn't generate as much heat as a 486 or even a 386 or my Blue Lightning usually would. The other reason why is I'm not using computers as much during the summer months. I'm usually outside riding my bike, landscaping, working on my truck, building guitars, doing that sort of stuff during the summer. I typically go back to the computers for the winter, but the Tandy gets some attention. So bought it at Value Village. I bought the keyboard on eBay as I did the other thing over there. I did make an attempt to make a light pen for this, but I couldn't get it working. I was using the Warp Speed light pen software to do that. When we look up here, here's the monitor. You can tell this is not a regular, if I can get it to focus. This is not your regular Tandy monitor. This is an NEC Multisync 2 made in 1988, model number JC1402HWA. This is a multi-sync monitor. This works for monochrome display adapter, Hercules, CGA, EGA, even works with VGA with a special adapter, and it actually works as an SVGA monitor. I've actually had this thing up to 1024x768. However, the dot pitch on this thing is so horrible that when it's that high, it looks blurry as all heck. So typically you want to keep it 800x600 or below. I also believe this is one of those 15 hertz refresh rate monitors some people really like, and don't know why my camera's not wanting to balance, but we're using my phone. Let's turn the light off, see if that helps it focus a little. Anyway, of course, let's go peer around back and take a look at some of the ports back behind the Tandy, just so you have an idea what I'll have plugged into this thing. Right here you have 3 industry standard architecture 8-bit slots. You have an Ethernet adapter right here. This is I think this is an SMC, if I'm not mistaken. Then I have a Revision 2 Vintage Computer Forum, before they were called Vintage Computer Federation, XTIDE 1.0 card in here, which you saw me update on one of the previous Tandy episodes. And there's my Tandy memory card that also adds direct memory access to it. Yes, this is networked. Yes, it connects to the internet. Yes, I've surfed the web with it. When we look over here, this is composite audio video out. It works with composite monitors. It also works with a TV. When you boot the Tandy, and for most of the things I'm recording here on YouTube, I have to press and hold F12 at the 640K memory OK to get it to boot up in that mode. So I have to press and hold that. Later 1000 keyboards said that you have to press F4. There was a BIOS change somewhere in there on the 1000. Also back here, there is a 9-pin video port here for CGA. There's your 9-pin video port over here for your light pen, which I'm experimenting with electronics. Maybe we'll play with that this year. I don't know. And there's your Tandy non-standard parallel port over there that you use with printers, which of course I never use with anything because I don't use printers on my vintage PCs. Running over the controls on the monitor, of course you have your power control. You have your regular brightness control. which I keep pretty low because I had to crank the voltage and focus. I think this tube is a little worn in, but it's still bright enough to be comfortable, more than comfortable. And then you have a contrast dial. Then you have this flip down over here, and you have a bunch of controls. You have vertical position, vertical size, horizontal position, and the horizontal size is adjusted by the switch. This is narrow, this is wide. Over here you have a mode that emulates a monochrome display. So say you want, let's go show it off. So over here on a Tandy 1000, the power switch is on the right rear corner like most XT and AT computers from the 80s. On the old original 1000s, this was actually a light up switch. This is just a blank black one. That's how you can tell 1000A from an original 1000. The 1000A has just a plain black switch. So I'll switch the Tandy on, hit power on the monitor, and I can kind of show you the settings for the monochrome here. Let's turn this light off. So as you can see, I can flip it in this fake monochrome mode. Now it's doing green, you have amber, and then you have black and white. So you can have all three. Or you can put it in color, like that. Which, as we can see, my XT IDE booting in MS-DOS 622. Anyway, let's kind of goof around on it a little bit, but let's do it in video where it's going to look a lot nicer. Here's my hard drive LED. It's hidden down there in the vent. Kind of gives it a Knight Rider effect. So right now we're starting recording with Tandy 1000. This is like a reshot of a previous version of this video. We're going to kind of hit F12 here, put it in TV mode. I have a way of actually putting it in a different form of TV mode using the mode command over composite. But right now we're going to kind of talk about my boot options I have here and how they differ. Now we have easy access menu mode, which is kind of broken. I might have to show you how I fix that later. What this does is opens the access menu system, which basically is like an easier way to use this computer for someone who's not versed in DOS. It's something I've started adding to all my PCs in recent years just because, it makes them easier to use. Game optimized is the game optimized mode for running games. Basically just loads simple joystick mouse driver, and that's about it. MS-DOS clean boot, which is just my clean boot for diagnostics. Start 622, which has full networking and all that on it. And then Deskmate 2 software. Two of these are all three of these are broken right now. I've got easy menu isn't loading. I've got a problem with this one where I have to do DHCP again, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Deskmate, which doesn't load like it's supposed to. For some weird reason, it doesn't like to load DM plus from the autoexec.bat file. Not sure why. Anyway, we're going to go to my standard mode here, and we'll see the computer boot up in TV mode. So you can see I have my no print, packet driver loads, then pulls up MTCP, it does DHCP lease, pulls a new one, and then it pulls up from the SNTP server the current date and time, which yes, I'm recording this all the way back in May, because I wanted to make it a little easier to deal with. So to fix that, we'll just do DHCP. Because if we don't, then it'll end up throwing up a message saying, oh, your DHCP lease has expired, because this DHCP lease is seen with a timestamp by in MTCP. And so if it sees that timestamps from 1/1/1980 and the current date is, like 5/27/2023, it's going to freak out and not let you access anything. So that's what we're going to do. Anyway, we're going to kind of take a look around here. We're going to go to Deskmate. This is what my Deskmate load up would normally have. As you can see, it's a regular clock calendar program. It's even Y2K compliant, which is really kind of surprising, considering the fact you can't even enter the date 2023, but MTCP allows me to actually have a date of 2023 in this. So I guess we could say it's semi-Y2K compliant. And I know I demoed this earlier on this channel, like about 15 years ago on my Tandy 1000 EX, which I gave away a million years ago. But yeah, this was the other computer that had that. So as we look here, we can see we're on the on the upper corner we have a calendar, May 2023. We have items for today, which would be pulled from your calendar list over here. I used to use this as an organizer back in high school in the 90s. Yes, the 90s, not the 80s. I am not, I'm what you call a Zennial. I fall in between millennials and Gen X. I am old enough to remember when everything was analog, and I'm young enough to remember when all this internet gobbledygook got started. As for your programs in DeskMate, you have a text editor here. It's just, your plain regular basic text editor. So let's do this. It'd be, file name test of the but yeah, I used to use this program a lot. Actually, back in high school, I used to use this to write lyrics sheets. Believe it or not, lyric sheets, set lists. A lot of my rock and roll stuff was actually done on Tandy 1000 SX originally. Then over here you have your worksheet. This is like their. This is kind of like their competitor to Lotus 123. I think. Let's see here. Seems not to want to play ball today. So yeah, not everything on this works perfectly. I've been working out little stuff on it. I've been just keeping the Tandy at home since it's the summer months and just kind of making improvements on it over time. And some things like this, they just mess up, They don't always work. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. Yeah, let's watch me try and escape out of a program here. So right now we're trying to get out. I could maybe do Alt F12. Most of these programs you can exit out through Alt or Control. Which right now I'm not having much luck with. So yeah, I had to kind of reboot and go back in there. So yeah, you have the worksheet. I guess it isn't a spreadsheet. I'm not quite sure what it is. Your filer, which is like your Rolodex, telecom, modem based, of course. I think this is like a telnet client, but I'm not 100% sure. I have no idea how to get this working with broadband internet, since Tandy was kind of around during the modem reliant phase of computing. Calendar program, as you can see, I already have a calendar in there. It's just like the Outlook calendar. You just set, alarms for various things. Say you have some meetings or whatever. These Tandy machines were really made very equally for work as they were for play. And then lastly, we actually have an email application in here. And of course, the way to escape out of most of these, except for worksheet, obviously, you just hit F12 and it exits out of the program for you. Next thing we're going to do is run syscheck 4.3 or 4.5. This is just, I'm going to kind of show you the specs before we start kind of exploring around, looking at games, looking at programs, that kind of thing. Talking about some of the various tweaks and tricks I'm having to use on this. Anyway, it always takes a few minutes for bigger programs like this to boot. So we're just going to kind of wait. There we go. We're in System Check 4.5. Just in case you're having trouble reading, our CPU is an NEC V20. Yes, 8087 is installed. It does get the CPU speed wrong. It says 8 megahertz. My CPU speed's 4.77 still. There are times I've been a little bit tempted to actually copy that mod EV blog did to his 1000, which is very similar to mine. I think his was the first run, mine's the second 1000A run. But we have all that on there. Microsoft 622s, you can see I have a pretty good bit of DOS memory free. I mean 557K pretty much everything on this runs first try. No serial ports, one parallel port, that goofy cartridge edge thing in the back. It says Microsoft 2-button mouse, but it's actually the Tandy Deluxe mouse via the TRS-80 joystick port. We're running an 80x25 column color CGA mode. 2 diskette drives, yep, dual 360K DSDDs, and a 122.15 megabyte Seagate 2.5-inch hard drive. CPU BIOS, of course, it thinks it's an IBM PC for some reason, but it's actually got the Phoenix Tandy 1000 BIOS. I/O, I just have one parallel port, that's it, and it doesn't even seem to know what IRQ. Here's my IRQ list. Almost everything on this is pretty much free right now. If I had the NIC going, probably IRQ 4 or 5 would be in use, but I don't have networking going at the moment. Disk drives, doesn't know what the heck they are, even though they're 360K. Expected on XT. If it was an AT, it would have like a string of data in the BIOS it could read to find out what this is. It doesn't have anything to check. IDE SCSI. It doesn't find IDE drive 1, doesn't find drive 2. Hilarious since it's XT IDE. And then here's the graphics card. No copyright found. ROM location, all that interesting stuff. Here's our memory, 640K, with some of it chopped off for CGA. There's a resident map of our TSRs. I've got like config 622 kernel in there. We've got command.com for shell and system environment. Twice. We have no print installed. We have PNPPD, which is a package driver. So yeah, I have the network up. Sometimes it doesn't show up on here. I'm not sure why. And then we have the environment syscheck is running. And then free available DOS memory. And here's our speed of the system, which is completely out of sync. In syscheck, you can run video speed test and a hard drive speed test. I just do the syscheck rating, pressing S here. So there's our video test, and there's our hard disk access test, which is actually pretty decent for an XT class computer. You can't really see the numbers because the CGA color burst, for some weird reason on this, does not want to play ball very well. So a lot of colors disappear. That's also the same problem I have with certain games. As you can see, we got a 23.8 on syschecks. I've gotten it up to 24 not having the network loaded, but you know. We can go down to network info. CMOS, there's no CMOS. Of course, there's no Windows on this either. And you can print everything out, or you can just exit out of syscheck and, you know, go do your other stuff. Here's a fun one to look at. I have the original Microsoft Word for the Tandy 1000, the actual original version of it on the original discs, and I've had these since the inception of the Creeping Network in 2001. I still have the original discs, and believe it or not, they still read and write, but I copy it to this hard drive on this Tandy because what would be more fitting. So let's go look at primitive Microsoft Word. As you can see, my deluxe mouse works with it. So you can, you know, go around there. And as you can see, it's actually quite advanced. It's actually mouse driven, so I don't have to do all that stuff. Although sometimes I have trouble with the mouse calibration when I'm running this. Sometimes it doesn't want to go all the way around, so you know, you got stuff like that. Commands, I would say, you know, you got control, you got your commands down here to run through. See your alt. So we can do that. So there's a little bit of Microsoft Word for you. So now we're in games, and I'm going to kind of use this part of the video now to kind of talk to you a little bit about getting these things working on an actual Tandy 1000 and how difficult they can actually be. So the Tandy 1000 has some special traits and quirks to it. Some, as Doug DeMuro would say, quirks and features that make it a little bit of a piece of work to work with. Let's start here. Let's talk about Arkanoid. So if I start with my old game Arkanoid, all these old Tato games, you can actually put R after the executable, and then it will actually load up the setup screens for that. So as you can see, I can set this for Tandy, and I can set it for mouse. There we are. And now we're in the boot screen for it. This one also is going to kind of exhibit one of the problems I run into with some of these old games for the Tandy 1000. As you can hear, I get the music in the background, but it doesn't come through the output for the TV, which is really bizarre. This is one of my favorite little games to play for the Tandy 1000 anyway, and I usually play it with the deluxe mouse. So right now we're playing this Annoyed. You can also see that the color burst from CGA kind of messes things up a little bit too. Yep, so there you are. And you can hit F10 to escape out of it, but you sometimes have to. And sometimes it doesn't work either. Anyway, next game. We're going to take a look at Arkanoid 2 Revenge of Doe. And we're going to use the same command as last time. So we got Tandy graphics, got one player, and we're going to use a mouse. And Tandy music. Oh, we have a construction set. I've never used that before. As you can see, we're entering into the Tato arcade once again. All these Tato games run in 320 by 200, so they look kind of vaporwavy on CGA. They look a lot better in person on the CRT. Unfortunately, it's just how we got to do it here, you know. And as you can see, we still don't get the music through the outputs, which I think is one of the problems with these Tato games. Let's play around to this with the mouse. It's not happy. Of course, we can get out via F10. And that's kind of the way you can usually get out of these Tato games. Now here's one we did last year. This is SimCity. It'll kind of expose a few of the shortcomings of the Tandy 1000 as well, as far as, you know, like recording it. So as you can see, when I load it up, first off, this expects a much later model 1000 that has a BIOS for digital audio, because SimCity uses digital audio for its actual, you know, sound. You can see, you know, my mouse works just fine with it. See, it says BIOS, Tandy sound BIOS not found using internal speakers. So I think you have to have at least a Tandy 1000 SL, maybe TX at the oldest. As you can see, it actually looks pretty great. I mean, we can start a new city. We can open said new city. We've got all the sound effects from said city in here. So now it's terraforming. Another little thing about SimCity on the Tandy 1000 is that SimCity is one of the few games that makes use of the Intel 8087 math coprocessor. So if you wanted to have a DOS game that actually did that, you know, SimCity is one of them. As you can see, we got all the graphics artifacts and all that. This entire top bar here is turquoise, but it shows up here as just dark gray. Not sure why. There's just some issues with the color burst signal on this to make it look correct. that doesn't say it's not playable, and I couldn't LP it with this, but that's one reason I haven't done a really serious big SimCity Let's Play with the Tandy 1000, say for that one, is just because of that fact. As you can see, it's pretty responsive actually for an 8088, especially with that 8087 in there. Actually, it's V20, so you can see we're in 16 color mode. It just doesn't really pop up that well. Now if we quit and exit out, I'm going to show you a little bit of a bug with Maniac Mansion, and the reason why I didn't play it last year. And I figure I'd show you unzipping this. So there's multiple versions of Maniac Mansion, and only one of them so far I found really works with the Tandy 1000. And the one that works with it works beautifully, and then I have some cool stuff to show you. But I figured I'd show you this broken version first, which was one I'd kind of struggled with this computer off and on since I got it. Maniac Mansion, of course, was the first SCUM. It's in the name, script creation utility for Maniac Mansion. First SCUM game by Lucasfilm Games. You know, the same company that brought you Star Wars, the same company that brought you Monkey Island. Actually, if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have The Secret of Monkey Island. Getting Maniac Mansion working on an original Tandy 1000 is tricky because there's some versions where the Tandy and EGA support are broken. I've looked this up and I did an extensive amount of looking, and I've noticed nobody has talked about this problem very much. Probably because there's not that many people actually playing Maniac Mansion on an actual Tandy 1000 anymore. I mean, let's get real. So we're going to go ahead and run this version of Maniac Mansion real quick, and we're going to kind of see what happens. So it's going to take it a few moments to boot. It's an 8088. As you can see, anytime now, yep, there we go, although you can't really see it very well. As you can see, we've got all this stuff at the top of the screen, data corruption, if you look way up there. Not sure how to, yeah, it like disappears. If I go around and select, I can't really control the cursor or anything. You know, if I press keys, it just makes various things appear on screen. Like I just got some green dots. There's some dots you're not seeing on there and stuff. But yeah, it's corrupt. So in Maniac Mansion, you can hit Control C to exit, luckily. And then we're going to go to the version that works. And then we're going to play it. A little bit. So now it's going to boot up the proper working version of Maniac Mansion. As you can see, we already have a vast improvement because now the slug is there. In these early LucasArts games like Maniac Mansion, like Monkey Island, the 16-color version, or Zack McCracken, you can actually change your controller type using Shift K, Shift J, and Shift M. So right here we're using the keyboard, as you can see. You know, I can go over here, I can go select Bernard, and there we go. We're not getting any audio out of the internal speaker for some weird reason. And if we do Shift J, we get the joystick, and now as you can see our cursor starts drifting around based upon the position, because this mouse works kind of like a joystick, but it just floats around. Or we can do Control M, and that gives us, or Shift M, and now it works like a mouse. So now we're going to go over here, we're going to select Razor, and then we're going to get started. Of course, we've got like no audio coming through here for whatever stupid reason. So you can hear the music playing through in the background here for Maniac Mansion. Anyway, so yeah, you can kind of change the controlling functions, and it works actually pretty well in 16 color mode on here. You might have to build some kind of weird adapter for the internal speaker thing on here or something. So I might do that later at some point, because we're not getting all the full audio out of the Tandy. Anyway, let's move to another game. Another game worth looking at might be Ultima 6, which I believe we can actually hear the in-game music from the RCA output on the Tandy on this particular title. Let's go ahead and see if that happens here. And yes, Ultima 6 runs on an 8088. This was actually my first computer was a Tandy 1000SX, and I used to play this on it. With a original 8088 and no 8087 chip in it. It's in color, just this filter is not doing it any justice whatsoever. Probably could use a little better burst mode stuff being done, just to say the least. But anyway, I'm going to kind of sit here and wait for it to load. So we're not getting any of that audio through the speaker either. You just get the internal speaker audio through there, which is really strange because that's not always the case with these. Yeah, like you heard that, the internal speaker comes through. So you can exit to DOS. So as you could hear there, we couldn't get the audio through the through there either, but here's a game that will do it. Sierra, let's see here. Let's try a game we haven't played before. So as you can see, we actually got the Tandy audio through the internal speaker on here. Let's go ahead and wander around a little bit. Some of these colors are off on here as well. Yep, there you go. So that kind of shows you it can come through the speaker. I just think that something is not configured right regarding the Tandy sound chip on these early 1000s to always put the audio through there. So that's another kind of side effect and one of the issues I've been kind of working on this to get it sorted out, besides also the color burst issue that we've been kind of having with it. So yeah. And I also have a few seconds of a delay between the actual audio and video, which is something else I'm probably going to work on too. Anyway, that pretty much kind of shows you some of the things I had to work on this Tandy to get sorted out. I mean, you know, it's some of the issues with the Tandy 1000 that you might run into trying to run games on it and play stuff. Of course, I think that pretty much should conclude this video. I think that's enough kind of input on some of the cons of running a Tandy 1000 and actual hardware. especially when it comes to recording these games on actual hardware and so forth. This is creepingnet signing out. See you in the next video. Oh yeah, this is kind of an addendum that I added towards the end of the day when I was busy looking around for solutions to that speaker problem so we could do more Let's Plays this year and actually have the audio. Well, I finally figured it out after some digging and digging and digging. I came up with a solution, or found one, on a Vintage Computer Federation forums, which is this Tandy speaker program. I put it in my DOS directory. Basically, what it does is if you print it out, as you can see, it configures the speaker. So you have default, which is the system default, enable internal and one voice programmable interrupt timer audio on the external RCA jack, which is kind of the default that the system goes to. Then there's both, which enables internal and external, which kind of gives it a lot of racket and noise. Then you can pick internal only, which will basically play from the speaker built into the Tandy, and then there's the other one which plays through the RCA jack in the back, external, which is what I'm going to be using for recording all these videos this year. I'm going to also be kind of actively hunting for a solution to the problem with the color burst signal on CGA. I don't know if I'll actually fix that or not, but we'll find out. There's also disable, and there's even custom, which allows you to set sound control bits to specified value, because there's bit 5, bit 6, and bit 4. And it allows you to basically configure what the multiplexer chip, what audio signals lets through to which outputs. Now, for my YouTube videos, I use external, but when I'm, playing the games just on the Tandy alone, internal should be fine. So that's what I'm going to end up doing, is I'm going to end up using external to go ahead and run all the audio of these videos. Hopefully it'll make it a little more like my Nintendo YouTube videos, where you actually hear some pretty clean, pure Texas Instruments audio straight from the machine, instead of having to listen to like a weird background echo delay thing coming off of having latency and all that other stuff. Anyway, I just figured people would realize that I figured out that problem at least. I'll let you know later in the next video. Did find one other weird thing. Mode TV throws off the sync on the machine. Anyway, I think that's closing for this year's edition of looking at and updating with things going on with my Tandy 1000A. So see you in another video. I'm gonna have plenty this month, and